Hi guys, so I'm doing another video about a response that I made after reading yet another Huffington Post article. I usually am reading, I do read Politico as well, but I'm posting, since I've been at my mom's place for the holidays, I've been reading a lot of the Huffington Post. So I'll be doing more of these videos. I believe I will, at least a few more. So anyway, this is a response to an article from the Huffington Post. Today is December 20th. The title of the article is called "The New Blue Collar, Temporary Work, Lasting Poverty, and the American Warehouse." I'll repeat it again. The New Blue Collar, Temporary Work, Lasting Poverty, and the American Warehouse. I don't really believe that temporary agencies or the temporary work industry is all that new. I think it's been around for at least 20-25 years. I read about 2 pages of this 5-page online article, and I didn't really learn anything new. I didn't really learn much about the issues with wages, other than that there's an emerging, swelling, growing, distributive industry being employed by low-waged workers. That's nothing all that shocking or surprising to many of us, I'm sure. So after the 2nd page, I stopped reading it. And by the time I finish reading my response, you'll kind of understand what I really got from this article. So my sort of negative slanted response goes like this: yet another useless Huffington Post article. Thanks a lot. The problem with poverty in America is the federal minimum wage, like I've said, like a broken record. Who cares about what the new blue-collar industry is? Who cares about who's more greedy than the next industry? Everybody is greedy. So long as our government allows poverty line wages as part of the federal minimum wage, any schmuck is going to lean on the lowest wage allowed by law, including the desperation of the working poor. You should really get off your butts, Huffington Post writers, and talk what really matters when it comes to working in America. For example, a minimum wage for non-college grads, a minimum wage for new immigrants, a minimum wage for college grads would be a good place to start. No one ever discusses an idea called the fluctuating minimum wage, which I don't think is very novel, but it's something that I kind of thought about. And this is where wage earners incur incentives on top of their base wage due to the company's higher profits over a certain margin, which could be utilized in order to maintain productivity and retain their employees while reducing an expensive turnover rate. Also, how about discussing the need for on-the-job training programs, OJT, to help those college grads with now unmarketable degrees who can receive a real education through OJT in order to attain quality jobs in the market. All in all, the media is useless. I blatantly say the media is useless when it comes to discussing the federal minimum wage. Folks, please, I implore you, as I've implored in the past, I'm sort of ad-libbing, demand a substantially higher federal minimum wage, because your liberal icons, including the media, right or left or right, will not do it for you. And I kind of mentioned I post another response to this article. It is shorter, so bear with me. I'm not going to be too long. Hopefully I won't. So it's continued. I believe there is a conspiracy. I know I sound naive, but I'm just going to read it anyway. I believe there is a conspiracy by both the media and the government, at least on some level there's a conspiracy, I would say, to not discuss the issue with the federal minimum wage in this country in order to placate and disempower as many people as possible. Even if you don't make minimum wage, including to the, and I'm ad-libbing here again, including to the woman who, there's a video that I posted on this channel with me being in the Halloween parade with Occupy Wall Street. And there's a woman that walks by me and says, she looks at my sign. My sign says, seriously, it's the wages. She looks at my sign and says, I don't need a higher wage because I get overtime. I make overtime, or something like that. Even if you make overtime and if you make higher than minimum wage, chances are the amount of your hourly wage correlates with the federal minimum wage, at least to some degree. You need to think about this, folks. You really do. You also need to understand and keep in mind, in case you don't, I'm sure some people do. I'm not saying that most people feel this way or forget, but people really need to understand that there are a lot of people, left or right, celebrities, liberal celebrities, your neighbors, your friends, yourself perhaps, who casually believe that there should be poor people in society in order to balance things out, quote unquote. Folks, we don't need poverty. And I know this sounds trivial and naive and it sounds patronizing, but some people I think need to hear this. I go on to say, we don't need poverty. We need more educated and productive we need a stronger, educated and productive middle class instead. Eyes rolling. Well, yes, we already know that. Thanks a lot. But, I think it's still important to mention, at least to some people. It's dangerous to think that it's dangerous to think that it's okay to have poor people, because the more we have a problem with poverty, the more it's a problem for all of us. I don't really need to explain detail by detail, item by item as to why it's a problem. It could be a serious problem for us. And plus, it's just not right for any human being who's willing to work hard, whether they're college educated or not. If they're willing to work hard, they should be making a poverty line, or definitely below a poverty line wage. $13 an hour, or $13.50 is actually a poverty line wage. It might be slightly above it, but $7.25 is just, it's so immoral. And I'm just amazed that nobody really talks about it in the media. Definitely not from the government, whether it's Bernie Sanders or John McCain. Nobody really discusses this. And I think it's also a shame that people on YouTube really don't talk about this issue. I've looked up the minimum wage, or I've looked up the words minimum wage, and in different phrases as well, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people who subscribe to YouTube really talk about it, and I wish they did. So I end by saying, please, I implore each and every one of you, if you understand and agree that the issue of poverty, an intrinsic issue with poverty, has to do with a federal minimum wage, please demand a substantially higher federal minimum wage. I'm ad-libbing the hell out of what I just wrote, but basically that's what I said. So I'm hoping that made sense to you. And if you do have a response to what I have to say, or at least if you want to read that article and respond to it in the Huffington Post, please do. Thank you. Have a good night.